Hi, my name is Matt Jones, and I'm the Oil Compliance and Enforcement Subsection Chief. I oversee the 4 full-time inspectors, the operator training program run by Suzanne Picconi, and oversee all the enforcement documents that get issued from our section. In this particular section, we'll be talking about financial responsibility and the documentation requirements. In this section, you will learn about the documentation requirements for financial responsibility, spill responsibility, coverage and liability, and finally, the state cleanup funds. For documentation requirements, we're really talking about the UST registration form, specifically Section 9 of the form, found on page 4 of the registration. In this section, it asks you whether you are financially responsible for your facility. When you're filling out this form, you always want to check yes, because you're either covered by your private insurance or by our state cleanup funds. When you check yes in the financial responsibility section, what you're saying is you can maintain costs associated with the cleanup of releases from systems, such as a spill on delivery to the tank, or your tank or piping releases product to the environment. The implementation of corrective measures, which could be a high-tech remedial system or potentially some groundwater monitoring wells. And finally, court-ordered damages, because unfortunately when spills or releases happen, they don't stop at the property lines. They go down the street, and unfortunately in some cases, miles down the street. There are certain minimums that are required for financial responsibility. At a minimum, the owner has to have an assurance of at least $1 million per occurrence per facility. Ultimately, though, no limit to an owner or operator's liability for damages caused by a release. So if a release costs $1.5 million to clean up, and you have the minimum $1 million coverage, the owner does need to come up with that $500,000 to help pay for those cleanup costs. Luckily in New Hampshire, we have an oil discharge cleanup fund that acts as the financial responsibility mechanism for facility owners. You do need to be eligible for the fund, and that's based off of compliance, and also a deductible that needs to be paid to access the fund. It is available for the first spill, as long as you're in compliance or achieve compliance with the UST rules. If you're to have subsequent spills or releases at your facility, it's available as long as you've maintained that compliance between those releases or spills. As I said earlier, the fund is accessed via a deductible, and this is dependent on how many facilities you own. 1 to 3 facilities is $5,000. 4 to 9 facilities is $10,000. 10 to 19 facilities is $20,000. And 20 facilities and up would be $30,000. When you pay this deductible, this does provide you up to $1.5 million in coverage to help pay for these cleanup costs. Bottom line, though, you do need to be in compliance. That's why compliance is key with being able to afford these cleanups, which can cost quite a bit of money to owners and operators. In summary, if you have a registration up to date on file with us and you're in compliance, you're going to be fund eligible. Otherwise, you need to provide $1 million in private insurance, which can cost quite a bit of money on a yearly basis. Either way, unlimited liability for the owner and potentially the operator. So again, if a spill costs $1.5 million to clean up and you only have $1 million in coverage, you need to come up with that other $500,000. This session has covered the financial responsibility aspects of our program. While we did go over the basics of the program, there may be additional questions regarding our state cleanup funds. In that case, I highly recommend contacting Jennifer Martz, the current manager of our state cleanup funds. You can see her information below, and she is always happy to help.